food tubers, I just wanted to say that some of you will be watching because on social media you saw that I would be recreating one of the recipes that I posted up from an illustration from Mrs. Beeton's book of household management. And I was actually going to do the blancmange. I am doing a blancmange, just not the one in that book. I'm doing a different blancmange recipe because the Beeton one, well, it's not Beeton actually, is it? Somebody else. But the recipe that appears in that book isn't very challenging, and I do like a challenge, and I wanted to make a blancmange that was a bit harder to make and was about 100 years before the Beeton recipe. But I did actually create the Beeton blancmange, and I used my lovely, gorgeous mould from the 1820s, a lovely Georgian mould which I used to make it, and I'm now going to show you the results of that blancmange right now. And here it is. Here is the blancmange that I created from the recipe from Mrs. Beeton's book of household management, and the blancmange that was shown in the illustration that I circulated around social media, if you saw it. And it's a rather beautiful thing. I think even nicer than the picture itself. So there you go. I did do it. Blancmange is one of England's earliest recorded dishes that's still enjoyed today. Some say its origins are French. Certainly the word comes from French for white food. Others believe blancmange-type desserts derive from Denmark or the Middle East. Numerous ingredients have been used over the centuries to flavour and set the dish itself. Early English blancmanges were typically made with shredded chicken, rice and almonds, like the one that appears in the 14th century text The Form of Cury, which is a collection of English medieval manuscripts believed to have been written by the head cook to King Richard II. The rice water and collagen in the chicken, which is that jelly-like substance that you find on cold cooked chicken the next day, would act as the gelling agent. Collagen from a variety of meats has historically been used to set jellies of all kinds. Today we know it better as gelatin. By the mid-1700s, isinglass was beginning to be incorporated into dishes to help solidify them. Isinglass is essentially dried fish bladder, which is still used in many contemporary commercial brewing and glue trades. Edible Irish sea moss was very popular in the 19th century across the pond in America and was frequently used as an alternative to isinglass. The seaweed was collected, washed, raked out and dried several times before being sold commercially as a thickening agent. It grows in abundance on the Irish coast, Europe and North America. There are advertisements for American sea moss being sold in grocers throughout the 19th century in the British press, claiming that a shilling packet could make up to 16 quarts, that's about 15 litres, of blancmange or any other gelatinous pudding. It also makes a great vegetarian alternative to fish bladder. It's important to note that not every recipe originally contained milk, and many recipes of the 18th century include 3 or 4 variants of blancmange, made with and without milk, like the recipe for blancmange that I have chosen to make for this film, which is taken from The London Art of Cookery Housekeeper's Complete Assistant on a New Plan by John Farley, published in 1785. John Farley arguably wrote one of the very first early restaurant cookbooks, before restaurants even existed and people ate at inns or eating houses. The book is based on Farley's time spent as principal cook at the London Tavern, a once famous tavern and eating house with a central dining room that could seat some 355 people. It was a hugely popular venue in the 18th and 19th centuries and supposedly frequented by Charles Dickens, who even cited it in his novel Nicholas Nickleby. Right, I'm just dissolving the isinglass in the water. It's exactly what I did with the Beeton recipe, except I used milk and cream with the Beeton recipe. So now the thing to do is to add the egg whites. It's a strange consistency, this. Okay, in we go with the egg whites. And the rice water. Now I've got to keep stirring this really quickly. Golly, that does look a mess. And the thing to do now, see it's getting that same, it's getting the white colour. I thought it would be clearer, but of course that egg white has given it the white that maybe milk would too. So what I'm going to do, the next bit I have to do is put all this through my makeshift 18th century strainer, which I'm very nervous about doing. So I'm going to turn this off and get on with the next bit. See you on the other side. Here is my gelatinous eggy mixture, which I am straining out in my makeshift 18th century jelly bag on its tripod, which is how it kind of would have looked back then. And I'm using the tripod of a jelly bag sieve from the conical sieve from the 1920s, so I think the design would have been very similar for past jelly bags. And that actually is coming out all right. So I'm going to carry on doing this because it's a bit laborious, and then it'll all go back on the heat and we'll add the almonds. Okay, it's been drip fed through the jelly bag. Now all I've got to do is add the almonds. It was actually really nice and clear, I have to say, but sadly I managed to get some of the egg white in accidentally, or else it would have been really clear. Still, I'm going to have to sieve it again, but after I've put the almonds in. So I'm just going to get the almonds. And they go, those are all crushed, so that's the sweet almonds and the ordinary almonds. There we go. So it's just to sort of scald it a bit and then run it through a sieve. To say it's not looking as thick as the Beeton one, but we shall see. I think a lot of that lovely gelatinous isinglass was lost in the dripping through the jelly bag. But I'm confident. So now I'm going to have to sieve all this one more time. So I've just sieved the mixture into my mould. As you can see, the steam coming off it. Haven't sieved terribly well, I have to say, but it doesn't look too bad. I'm a bit worried about it setting because in all the dripping and sieving, I think we've lost a lot of isinglass, but the recipe does say to leave overnight. So let's see what happens.